back to Diligent Canine, and in this video I'm going to teach how to teach your dog to sit. And the most common way to do that, and probably the easiest, is through luring and with positive reinforcement. So in this situation I will use some food to lure the dog through space, how I want his body to move, and get him to a sit, and then mark and reward that. So at the very beginning stages it would look something like this. Get the dog's attention. Okay. Yes. So as soon as his butt touches the ground, I mark and reward it. I'm not going to get too into the specifics as far as the criteria. When you are first teaching your dog, you want it to be simple. You want them to succeed. So when I'm luring the dog, I'm holding the food in front of his nose and I'm drawing the dog forward to get his attention. See? I'm lifting it up between his ears. See? So he already knows how to sit, but I want to illustrate this point that essentially you're going to move the food over the dog's head from its nose towards between its ears. If the dog starts to back up, then you've got the food too low. So it might look something like this, where you're just pushing the dog, pushing him, and he backs up. If you hold the food too high, the dog will stand up on its back feet, which is a technique used to teach a different command. So something like this. Like that is not what I want when I want the dog to sit. So I'm going to lure somewhere between his ears, but not high enough that he doesn't back up, but low enough that he doesn't stand up on his back feet. Okay, so I'm going to start luring. Okay. Yes. And eventually I'm going to pair that with a sit command. So I will give my sit command. Yes. And then lure the dog. So we start by just luring. Behavior is performed. We mark and reward. Then we add our command. Issue command. Lure. Behavior is performed. Mark and reward. So again, luring your dog to a sit looks something like this. Yes. Then when you issue your sit command, the next step, sit. Yes. Okay. And eventually, then you don't lure at all. So you take some of those steps out, you issue your command, and expect the dog to sit before you mark and reward. So the luring gets taken out. Ding. Sits. Yes. The other way to teach your dog to sit is through a bit of an aversive measure. Now again, this doesn't mean abusing your dog. It simply means you're applying a negative stimulus that gets removed once the dog completes the behavior. So when we think about the mechanics of sitting, the dog's body, when they're standing, their back is parallel to the ground. So we either want their rear to go down or their head to go up. When we're luring, their head lifts up and inadvertently their bottom also tilts down. So that gets us to the seated position that we want. So when we're applying force or aversives, we can push their rear down, or we can lift their head or apply a stimulus to make them drop their rear or lift their head. So I'll turn my dog Dean here so you can see. And if I wanted him to sit, I can push on his rear for one. Yes. And the same principles apply here. I'm going to start just by making the behavior happen and then marking and rewarding it. Then I will add my command. So it'll look like seats. Yes. And then eventually I won't apply the pressure at all. Seats. Yes. Okay. Stay. Good. Oh. Stay. Yes. So we can apply pressure from the other direction then. You can see that I've got a pinch collar on my dog Dean here. If you haven't seen my video on collars, check that out so you'll know how these work. And it's the same thing here. I apply the pressure upward because I want his rear to drop. And I can help him with pressure on his butt. And the pressure is released when he sits. I can double up on the rewards by marking and giving him food afterwards as well. So again, that looks like this. Yeah. I start by just making the behavior happen, releasing the pressure, marking and rewarding. Then I issue my command, seats, apply the pressure, release, mark and reward. Yes. And eventually, I don't apply any pressure. Seats. And the dog sits. Place. Seats. Yes. Thanks for watching Diligent Canine. Be sure to support military and working dogs by subscribing on Patreon. And as always, if you have any questions, shoot me a message, and the Q&As will always remain free.